Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the NXT review for the 4th of April 2012. We continue our foray into this particular journey, and Percy Watson, Tyler Rex start off. They are back and forth. Tyler Rex and Kurt Hawkins have been pretty famous about blaming other people for their issues, and that is brought forward here. Obviously, Hawkins and Rex are pretty well going at it. Hawkins on the outside of the ring with a baseball bat, and Percy Watson, who has been on other brands a little bit, not as much as he may like, but dropkick under the chin and a big kick, followed by a butterfly suplex and a kind of roll through there. Nothing terribly fun to write about, but at the end of the day, not a bad match. Percy Watson is a guy that I wonder why he didn't get more over and why he didn't go a little further in the business. I don't know that he's around more than a couple of years in WWE. Maybe the business isn't for him. Don't know what became of him post his involvement. I do know he did some commentary for a few years, but even now, I don't know that he's still in wrestling in some form. Of course, it's not for everybody. Some people make a lifestyle of it several decades. Other people in and out within a few years. Depends on the person, and certainly the road will own you and isn't for every single individual. Anyway, Rex comes back, and one thing that Watson does extremely well is drop kicks, among other things. But anyway, we see eventually a attempted roll up, and ultimately Rex comes out and takes the loss 2-on-1 with Percy Watson and Hawkins and Rex. And Watson doesn't take a backward step. Obviously, Regal informing him to get a partner. And there we go. There is a backstage segment with Michael McGillicuddy and Natalya Neidhart, basically implying that that he is different because he is third generation. That's the undercurrent of the story, so to speak. And she, being Natalya, does not like being placed in that particular position. Neidhart and Caitlyn is up next, and it's funny. I love Natty Neidhart when she was part of the independent scene, Shimmer, and that. And her WWE run has been least spectacular of many of the third generation superstars or even second generation superstars seen. And I don't know if it was just they never got behind her completely, but I mean, she's there at this point for, I don't know, at least 10, 12 years. And to think of things she's done that have had mainstream significance, I don't. She's not memorable in that way, and it's actually kind of sad. She has passable matches, but I don't know that they ever got behind her in a way that really makes it work. Of course, Tyson Kidd on commentary on the outside, they acknowledge their relationship eventually in storylines a few years later. I don't know that they're doing it here. Anyway, step over and a nice abdominal stretch by Neidhart in the midst of the match. And I will say, Natty does have the ability to bring other people up a level or two if needed, and eventually she gets a victory here, but that's the extent of it. She doesn't really get the main event deal, and obviously the sharpshooter, a big thing for her. Titus O'Neil and Darren Young are basically in the ring or in the backstage area talking about his desire, Young's that is, desire to give gifts to Tamina, and Young basically says that it can be done, and ultimately there's issues there. One of the Usos against Darren Young is another of the match, or actually the tag match eventually does happen. Young and O'Neil against the Usos. Usos trying to keep Tamina away from getting involved in another relational situation. Double back elbows, double elbow drops, and basic things along the way here, leading to that in general. And ultimately, hard shots along the way. ultimately, and we see, some degree of attempted tag offs. Doesn't get everything wanted on that, but some hard shots in the midsection and a back suplex by Darren Young. Young does end up looking pretty aggressive, assertive in the situation. Doesn't get everything he wants, but manages to do everything he can to get things going back in his general direction. Does put body scissors on Titus O'Neil. Coming back in obviously is a more power related offense for the next several minutes, and we see Titus and Darren Young do manage to hang with the Usos pretty well. Usos, even here, kind of above the rest as far as tag teams are concerned. And some dissension between Young and O'Neil post the match. And while they're not going back to feuding, the Usos getting a victory here. I would even say Usos a bit protected here, even on NXT at this point in their journey. Percy Watson, Derek Bateman, and Caitlyn are all kind of talking around issues there going forward. Tyson Kidd kind of talking to Bateman a little bit and trying to get into things about his relational status. And again, there's issues that way. They do shake hands and they have respect for each other in the end that way. But ultimately, we kind of come up with another deal here, and we see that Maxine is trying to get issues with where the things with Stryker are going to lead, and there's blame being set that way, and obviously Hawkins and Rex take out Johnny Curtis. They blame him for the kidnapping of Stryker, and ultimately that goes a little further that way. We then move to the main event of the program, which is Michael McGillicuddy and Derek Bateman. Match is better than expected. Bateman manages a baseball slide after some really basic, go around with things like arm bars, arm locks, and the like. Tries to bring him back in with a suplex. Doesn't get what he wants out of that. McGillicuddy, who at this point isn't doing as best he can on the main roster, but is doing pretty okay, I guess one would say. Uses more power, which is a bit surprising that they're kind of portraying McGillicuddy as a power guy here at this point, but I think it's more a difference of kind of roll through. He does go to the mat and use more of a technical style than we average see, but being a third generation superstar, they're trying to give him edges that he normally wouldn't have. Bateman, though, probably one of the better baby faces on the show at the point. We see more takedowns, attempted mocking of Tyson Kidd with an attempted sharpshooter, and Bateman gets a quick roll up, and ultimately that only leads to a 2 count. The attempted flip neck breaker by McGillicuddy, who gets a victory. To close the show, we'll be back with more right after this.